just this morning, my 10-year-old son asked me what made me a great leader. And I said, well, first of all, I'm not a great leader. I said, but my definition of a great leader is to be an intelligent follower. And then he screwed me and called me on my bullshit. And he said, what does that mean? And I've been telling people that great leaders are intelligent followers. And no one, of course, except for a 10-year-old is going to ask me what the F does that mean, because everybody's not humble. And, it was a challenge to say that, in order to lead, we have to have gratitude and learn through gratitude of others to seek the life, the love, and the lessons from them. And then I talked about the difference between motivation and inspiration, that a great leader motivates people, but most importantly, inspires them, because there are leaders who just motivate through fear, through stage, in direction. And they're not great leaders just because they motivate. A great leader inspires, because inspiration gets you there. If my 10-year-old would ask you, someone who's written 5 books on leadership, how would you explain or define a leader to him?
This is why I'm excited about Generation Z. I never had a conversation with my father when I was 10 and asked him how he thought about what it means to be a leader. This generation, even more so than millennials and certainly Gen X before them, really understand the concept of leadership early in their lives. And I've seen it play out with my own kids. And I think that bodes well for the future. I think they're going to, as they already have started, join our organizations, which are with a much more sophisticated understanding of what it means to be a leader, how to collaborate. To your point, I agree with you. When to lead, when to follow, right? And that it actually requires both, right? The truly great leaders do that. I have a point of view around how would I answer that question for your son, because when a colleague of mine wrote The Leadership Gap, spent a long time in writing that book. And one of the questions we were challenged with is, well, every leadership book defines leadership. And we said, well, you know what? The reality is we're not going to add anything new to it. But the most important thing is that every person has to define leadership for themselves. So if your son was here, I would say, so what do you think makes a great leader? You need to have that. I've got my perspective, and it's about bringing people together. It's about, leaving the organization, its people, its communities in a better place than you found it. It's about bringing that sense of humility. But I certainly have a strong perspective of that ultimately it's about being accountable. One of the things we do is we hold anyone in a leadership role to a higher standard of behavior. When they live up to that standard, we emulate them. We want to emulate them. We want to hope we can be like them one day. We are inspired by them. But when they let us down, we get disappointed, we get disengaged, we get completely, disgusted. We protest the streets if we have to. That's what ends up happening in that case. So I would say we all have to really pause and think about how we're defining what it means to be a leader for ourselves.